Hey you witches, it's Taya here and my puppy Luna. She's hanging out with me today, and today we want to talk about creating a sustainable witchcraft practice. Now, I'm guessing some of you are like me and you read something new, you get inspired, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do like all the things. And it's great for maybe a couple of weeks or maybe even a couple of months, and eventually life happens. And then we end up feeling bad because, I was gonna do this and I was gonna do that and I didn't, and I wasn't able to keep it going and follow through, and then you end up having these big lapses in your practice. Eventually though, for everybody, life happens like that, right? And so instead of trying to create the most perfect practice, why not try to create the most sustainable practice? Witchcraft doesn't just happen, when we're inspired. It doesn't just happen when we're all like super into it. It's something that happens every day. It's who you are. It's a way of being in the world on a day-to-day, a week-to-week, a month-to-month basis. So instead of what's the most you can commit to, how about considering what's the least you can commit to? So that when life gets busy and hectic, it's what can you stick with? It's not that you can't do fancy spells and rituals and add in all kinds of witchy goodness as you go along. But when the going's not so good, that's when the real commitment kicks in. I know for me, 2020 has been a year of testing my limits, testing my commitments, and I'm glad that I committed to a sustainable practice, not a perfect one. So what does that look like? For me, I'm committed to observing the Sabbats. Now, that might be celebrating them, but it might be as much as just sitting down and spending 10 minutes that day just thinking about, okay, what's this day about? What does this Sabbat mean for me? At a minimum, I create like a Book of Shadows entry for each Sabbat and take a few notes, right? And make note of what I did that day. And I'll, note some traditional activities. And so every year I can kind of go back and check from the years previous and sort of, I keep adding to all those ideas. But it doesn't mean that I have to go and create a whole altar. There's been a few this year, like Letha, it was just not a good time of year for me. I was struggling and I couldn't create a whole big thing. But you know what? I went out and I had a bonfire with my kids and I'm like, okay, I did something. This is good. It's observing the lunar cycles, the full moons and the new moons. So it might be as much as having a whole Esbet ritual working prepared, but it could be as much as just at the end of the day, when I'm putting the curtains down before I go to bed, just observing that, hey, yeah, it's the full moon tonight. Ooh, it's really dark out. It's the new moon tonight. Another couple of weeks have gone by. Just marking that passage of time. It's weekly offerings and weekly energetic cleansing. I'd love to do my energetic cleansing daily, but for me, that's just too much. I can't commit to that, or I wasn't able to at the time, right? So that's something I'll do weekly. And it's a daily reading from, I have like a 365 Days of Witchcraft book that I read from, right? Just every day. And some days I might sit down and, kind of meditate on the message of the day and do some journaling. And some days it's like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to read it, I'm going to go, check, all right, good to know, and moving on with my day. Is it a perfect Instagrammable practice? No, it's not always pretty. But is it an authentic, sustainable practice for me? Yes. And I feel like that's what's most important. It's a practice I can be proud of because I'm sticking to my commitments. Now, are Sabbats and lunar cycles and, weekly offerings and a daily reading all that I do? No. I've got a rich and varied witchcraft practice. I've got all sorts of wonderful observations and celebrations and rituals and offerings and workings and just, you name it. They're all icing on the cake though, right? Once this year is over, I've got several more things that I'd like to add in to my minimum committed practice for the following year. Things that I'm currently working with and playing with to see how I can, create them and maintain them in a sustainable sort of way. And I know then when I put them into my regular practice that I'll be able to sustain them for the long run. You know, creating a sustainable practice takes time and dedication, and it needs some minimum planning, not maximums, but minimum planning, and some check-ins and a little bit of regular maintenance. And then I know that my witchcraft practice is going to continue no matter what life throws at me. So I'd like to know, what are your minimum witchcraft practices? What, you know, when the going gets tough in your life, what are the small things that keep you going and moving forward in your practice? Leave a comment and share your tips. Who knows? I'd like to learn something too. So thanks for hanging out. Give us a like on the video, you know, hit the subscribe button, and then maybe we can visit again soon. All right? Mwah! Thanks so much, you guys.